Hey there, fight fans. It's John Pollock here with you for Fight News Now Extra. John Randina and Robin Black are going to be joining me in just a couple of minutes as we get you set for the weekend, chatting Tito Ortiz-Jenna Jameson drama, Vanderlei Silva targets his next fight, and a rising middleweight talent is switching camps. 33-year-old middleweight Philippou is leaving Team Serra-Longo despite riding a 5-fight win streak inside of the UFC. The news came out on the MMA Sentinel radio program when Matt Serra revealed the departure and was confirmed by MMAfighting.com, who spoke with Philippou's manager, Lex McMahon. Vanderlei Silva spoke to Sport TV in Brazil and stated that the fight with Chael Sonnen has not been proposed to him for August 17th and that he would not be ready to fight in Boston this August. Silva went on to say that he would love to fight in Brazil next, but is not planning to fight before December, stemming from the wear and tear on his body after the Brian Stann fight this past March at the Saitama Super Arena. And we finish off with a nasty split between Tito Ortiz and Jenna Jameson that has gone public. Jameson took to Twitter on Thursday night, accusing the former light heavyweight champion of faking drug tests and even posting photos of various pain medication and other drugs that she claims belongs to Ortiz. Ortiz spoke to MMAJunkie.com, claiming that Jameson has given up opportunities to see their children and denies all of the allegations that Jameson is making. And we're joined by John Randine and Robin Black. And right off the top, guys, obviously not a whole lot to add here, but just a really nasty split involving Tito Ortiz and Jenna Jameson. And unfortunately here, these two do have two children together, and it just looks like this is going to be a very, very public feud between the two.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what happens when two, especially high-profile celebrities, they're calling it quits. There's going to be a lot of mudslinging, and I don't think either one of these are willing to back down. You have kind of the alpha female and Jenna Jameson, who's kind of done everything on her own, as well as Tito Ortiz. So I think this is going to go on for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing. Like, it's 2013, man. Like, people are interested in seeing a guy who used to punch people in the face for a living and a woman who used to, like, do what she did for a living, have this public thing. I mean, we're going to be watching this. I feel dirty talking about it, though.
Well, quickly, there was one thing Tito did bring up when he was speaking to John Morgan, the fact that, this has been ongoing with Jameson and just a lot of drama that he has had to deal with. And the two first met in 2006, and he somewhat hints, that, his career slide at that point. I mean, he went 1-7-1 in his last 9 fights.
Hold on. Is he trying to blame Jenna Jameson for the way his career has gone?
He certainly does give you that impression here, and I don't think that you can absolutely lead this to a cause. But having all that issue as well as you're preparing for a fight, that's certainly going to...
That's also life. I mean, none of these guys are impervious to the fact that they're married, they're going through conflicts, there's financial issues. Look at Pat Healy. This is a guy that was almost broke before he came into the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and is still broke because of what happened. But, I mean, everybody deals with things in their lives. So, I mean, you just have to move on. You can't blame something like this because of your career slide.
In 2006, I think if we were talking back then, one of us asked the others, do you think this is going to end well? I don't think anyone would have said that it probably would. Jenna Jameson and Tito Ortiz, so...
Another breakup involves Philippou and Team Serra-Longo. This, to me, just screams that Philippou realizes the dynamic here inside of the gym. Chris Weidman could very likely be middleweight champion a couple of months from now, and he's a guy that he is not going to be content to play that Daniel Cormier role while his teammate is champion, and I think thinks now is the time to get out of that environment because he does want to fight for the title, and that is his goal. That's what this just screams to me.
If that's the case, he believes that Chris Weidman's going to be the champion and he doesn't want to face Chris Weidman in the future, sure, but I mean, this guy still needs a number of victories before he gets a crack at the middleweight championship of the world. So I think the best thing is to stay with the people that brought you to the dance in the first place. But obviously there has to be some sort of other issues for him to leave that camp. It's very similar to the fact that, say, Jacare decides, I don't want to be a part of Blackhouse because I might have to fight Anderson Silva in the future. I don't think that's going to happen, considering you have some of the best trainers in the world.
But what does that do to the dynamic of the gym when Costa makes it evident that I want a title shot, and I don't care if it's this guy who I'm working with every day? I mean, that creates a weird kind of chemistry within the gym and can disrupt other fighters, I think, as well.
For sure. And every time you're rolling with him, you're thinking, is this guy learning something that he wants to use against me in the year? You can't really have it. And, you talk about alpha males. Most of these guys do not like playing second fiddle. And when you're in a gym, even if he's not planning to fight for the title anytime soon, and you don't get to make that decision, you're sitting there in the gym and everything's about Chris. Okay, Chris got to train this. Costa, go train with Chris. Costa, spar with Chris. And you start feeling like second fiddle. If you start believing you're the guy, you don't want to have that feeling.
But at the same time, you go back and you look at Glover Teixeira. This is a guy that's dealt with this in the past. You know, he was trying to climb the ranks. Meanwhile, the golden boy was Chuck Liddell, so he had to live in the shadow of Chuck Liddell. But he knew his time had come, and now is the time for Glover Teixeira. So I think Costa Philippou just has to, you know, take a back seat because Chris Weidman is the guy everybody wants to see right now.
That was also, I mean, the guy wasn't even in the UFC at that point. I mean, it's something that, I mean, this is realistically here. Costa Philippou, let's say he fights Michael Bisping next, which is the fight he wants, and gets a win. He, to me, is right up there, right after Vitor, is probably the next likely. I mean, he's right in that pairing then with Jacare and Vitor, and probably ahead of Jacare in some people's estimation.
If that's the case, the time to go is now, for sure. You don't want to hang in there a little longer. I mean, arguably, you could wait to see if Chris wins, because if he doesn't, this whole thing's irrelevant. You can hang out and train with one of the best wrestling ground guys in the world, and Costa Philippou went and trained his kickboxing elsewhere anyways, which is now his team. So, you know, they're a benefit to each other, but yeah, there may be something else going on.
That's exactly what I'm looking at, that there has to be some sort of other story because, you know, we don't know if Chris Weidman's going to win. You know, we'll find out the answer to that in July. But what happens if Anderson Silva pulls an Anderson Silva and absolutely decimates this guy? You don't have to worry about Chris Weidman holding the title. And like you mentioned, you have a great training partner to get you ready for a guy who is the pound.
Well, then you book Costa Philippou against Chris Weidman. That, to me, is the fight I want to see at that point in time. Quickly, Vanderlei Silva throwing out any chance of fighting in August, says he won't be ready to fight until December. And it looks like that Chael Sonnen fight, at least in the short term, definitely not happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's Vanderlei Silva knows better than anybody. And I love the fact that he gets to tell people, I'll fight when I'm ready.
Yes.
Well, he's kind of at that position right now. Quickly, do we get Benson Henderson, TJ Grant now on that FS1 card?
I would expect so.
There you go. Might happen August 17th. More Fight News Now Extra, though, is coming up at you right now.